Hey, you're listening to the wrong podcast. Topics today include deception, duplicity, and duty-doo-doo.
Wrong!
It's the wrong podcast, but we'll make it right. Spinning the world in a whole new light. Witty, wild, and a little askew, and the one who's right, it might be you.
Hi, I'm Tim. I'm here to talk about politics, culture, religion, sports, and anything else you're not allowed to talk about in polite company. Issue number 1! Throw it out! I don't know if you've heard of this woman, Marie Kondo. She's a Japanese organizing expert. I actually read her book years ago before she had a TV show on Netflix or something. Her main idea is that you should throw stuff out. Throw everything away. Especially if the object does not spark joy. You pick up the thing, you look at it, and you say, does this spark joy? And if it does not spark joy, you throw it out. And let me tell you, I look at my lawnmower, it does not spark joy. I am keeping my lawnmower despite its lack of spark joying. There's a new thought, though, that maybe this is not the metric that you should be judging your stuff on. Instead, there's a much stricter notion that you look at your stuff and you say, if there was poop on this, if there was actually fecal matter on this thing, would I bother to clean it out and then keep it for the rest of my life, or would I throw it out? Is there poop on it? That's the metric. Not does it spark joy? Does it spark poop? If there's poop on this, would I clean it? And if I would not clean it and keep it, then I am throwing it out now. And, you know, it's a nice notion. There's a lot of stuff that just cannot be cleaned. That's how I'll put it. But that is not true if you're Carnival Cruises. I don't know if you remember this. Many years ago, there was something called the Poop Cruise. And there is a documentary on Netflix. I think you can just type in Poop Cruise. That's not the name of it. Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know if the name is Poop Cruise, but I found it, and I'm pretty sure all I had to go with was Poop Cruise. But Carnival Cruises, they had this cruise line that went from like Houston to Cancun, went to somewhere in Mexico, through the Gulf of Mexico. On its way back, there was an electrical fire in one of the engine rooms, and it took out all of the electricity in the entire ship. And the big problem with this is that, I don't know if you knew this, I did not know it. Toilets on cruise ships require electricity. Super weird. None of our toilets anywhere else in our houses where we are used to using them require electricity. Maybe some of you who have basements in the Midwest know what it's like to have an electric toilet, but most of us do not have electric toilets, but cruise ships do. And that was the big issue when the power went out on the ship. Not that it was stuck in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. The big issue is that nobody could flush the toilets. So the crew, they call tugboats to come from Mexico to come get them because they're actually closer to Mexico. And while they're waiting for these tugboats to come, the ship drifts, and it drifts closer and closer to Alabama. So the tugboats have to go an extra long way to come get them. The crew, they're like, okay, people can pee. They can pee in the showers. The drain goes down. There's lots of pipe there. Please pee in your shower, but poop in a little bag. We're going to hand out all these bags for you to poop in. Well, people don't take to pooping in bags very kindly, or they ran out of bags. Eventually, they're pooping in the toilets. The toilets are filling up. Nobody wants to be in the hull of this ship because it's hot, it's not air conditioned, and it's starting to smell like poop. So everybody finds their way up to the top deck. They're sleeping on the top deck. They're up there day and night, and the tugboats arrive, and eventually they start tugging the boat. And as they're tugging the boat, the ship, it tilts to the side. because of the tugboats. And when it tilts, everything in all those toilets throughout the entire ship spills out onto the floor. There's poop everywhere. Poop everywhere. Eventually, it takes days. I think it's like 5 days of drifting at sea with poop everywhere. They finally make it to Alabama. The documentary is like, oh, these people, they overcame so much. Hooray for them. Let me tell you what Carnival Cruises did after they cleared all the people out. They looked at this ship and they said, we can clean this up. And so they cleaned up the whole thing, despite there being poop everywhere. And they said, you know what we're going to do? The ship is called the Carnival Triumph. No longer is it known as the Carnival Triumph. It is now the Carnival Sunrise. So if you ever, I don't go on cruises, but maybe you do. If you're taking the Carnival, maybe check and see if you're on the Carnival Sunrise, because you might want to rethink that cruise. Issue number 2, slow and steady. I was just listening to an African theologian talking about how Africans read the Bible differently than Westerners. That shouldn't surprise anybody, but, you know, they have different cultural assumptions, and so when they read this thing, they view it differently than people from the West. For example, the parable of the prodigal son. Most Westerners, when they think about that parable, they think about how ungrateful the son was. But for many people in Africa, they read that parable for the first time, and what strikes them is that there was a famine. The famine is lost on most of the West. But the famine is a very big deal to people in Africa because they know what it's like to be in a famine. The theologian, she told this story that was just fascinating to me. We all know the parable of the tortoise and the hare. I think we got this parable from Aesop, one of Aesop's fables. The general idea is the tortoise and the hare are going to have a race, and the tortoise sticks with it, slow and steady. The rabbit, the hare, he thinks he's got this one no problem, so he's lazy at parts, and he doesn't notice the tortoise pass him by, and he loses the race because he doesn't just run the race. Well, in the African version, it's different. The tortoise knows he's going to run this race with the hare, and he knows he's going to lose. So the tortoise goes to all of his tortoise friends, all his tortoise family. They all look like him. They've got the same color, the same shape. And the tortoise says, hey, I'm going to lose this race. I need your help. So the tortoise starts the race with the rabbit, and the rabbit is just zooming off. And no matter how fast he runs, there is always a tortoise in front of him, because all of the other tortoises, they join with their friend to help him win the race. And they are secretly at different stages of the race. A new one just pops out of the race. It just pops out onto the track, onto the road. So it doesn't matter how fast the rabbit runs, there is always a tortoise in front of him. Sure enough, the rabbit gets to the end of the race. He can see the finish line, and as he sees the finish line, he notices that a tortoise is in front of him, and it is crossing the finish line in front of him. The rabbit loses the race. Now, what is this about? What does this mean to African cultures? Well, Africa is an honor-shame culture, and I've talked about the honor-shame thing before. I'm pretty sure I will leave a link in my show notes to my previous episode about honor-shame. But in an honor-shame culture, your tribe cannot be shamed. The people in your tribe cannot be shamed. This representative of your tribe must be spared the indignity of shame. And so, everybody in the tribe comes together to make sure that there is no shame on this tortoise, even if that means that you cheat or you deceive or you manipulate. Perhaps you have to look the other way when your tortoise is misbehaving. You decide you need to look away because there cannot be shame on your tortoise or on your tribe. And I'm just glad that we don't have anything like this in the West. I can't think of any situation where anybody is willing to overlook the the crimes or the misdeeds of the representative of their own tribe. I don't know why this story has endured. I cannot think of anything like this anywhere ever. Hey, it's time. What are the rules?
Oh, what are the rules? What are the rules? Don't touch my fries or my garden tools. Oh, what are the rules? Yeah, I've got my quirks. Follow them closely and I promise it works.
My family and I, we were watching Elio on Disney Plus. Elio is a fine movie. You want to see it? Great. It's good. No problem with you watching Elio. We enjoyed it. My daughter and I actually saw it in the theater, and then we watched it again. We have this cute line now that we stole from it. We have the cheap version of Disney Plus because we are cheap. And ads run on the cheap version. I don't know if you know that because you're not cheap like we are, but listen, let me just tell you what it's like in our economic class. We watch Disney Plus with ads. My daughter is super weird, by the way. She's 9. She loves ads. She's like, I really love commercials. They're so cool. I learned so much from them. Her experience as a child is way different than mine. So we're watching Elio, and the ads come on, and the ads are for Elio. They keep telling us to watch this movie on Disney Plus. And eventually I say, we're trying to watch Elio. Stop running your ads so we can just watch Elio. Stop telling us to watch Elio. We're actually trying right now. I do not understand this. This is a multi-billion-dollar company. How do they not have something in their algorithm where they're automatically playing ads where it says, hey, don't run the ad for a movie that somebody's actually watching at the time? I get it. They didn't sell the ad space. They're using it to promote their other products. Promote your other products. That seems easy. Remember, I want to know what's wrong with you.
What's wrong with you?
If you'd like to submit a question, topic, or tell me how I was wrong, you can email me at listen@therewrongpodcast.com or submit a comment at my website, therewrongpodcast.com, and help me spread the wrong message. If you like what you hear, share it with your friends. Now it's time for my favorite part of the show. I was wrong.
I was wrong. Oh, I was wrong.
Listener Melanie writes in about my last episode about Charlie Kirk.
Well done. I mostly agreed with your analysis of him. I used to comment on his quote-unquote destroy videos, asking them not to be named with clickbait titles because who are you trying to attract? But I'm glad you acknowledged at the end that Charlie seems to have grown in humility and depth of faith, which could account for some of the harsh videos being earlier in his career. Since it's the wrong podcast, I want to challenge that I believed he initially pursued leaders and influencers versus being bought by them in the beginning. And I read somewhere that he doesn't deal with the money and donations coming in for accountability's sake. I think he's one of the few that isn't as motivated by money. I also think we need to take into account that he was a black and white literalist, possibly on the spectrum, which can often result in saying very harsh things and not always being aware of how it can come across to people who are more intuitive about social norms, empathy, etc. I also think he probably had a certain spiritual gift that needed to be balanced by the mercy folks. And I think he became more tender-hearted after marriage and having children. Finally, we were in the overflow arena for his service, and it was filled with incredible worship. The full gospel presentation multiple times, and many people stood up to repent and receive Christ. And though we were selective about what we applauded for, read nothing spelling of Christian nationalism, and we may have left early and turned off the president's speech on the drive home, Jesus was glorified, and he will use it for his glory. My 2 cents.
Thank you, Melanie. I appreciate your comments. I heard about the money thing from a Christian speaker named Frank Turek, who was actually there at Charlie's side when he was shot and died. He was in the car ride home. he gave a really interesting and touching recounting of Charlie's death, and he said that he had seen personally Charlie turn money down for, or told people to take their money elsewhere if they didn't want him talking about Christianity. As far as the harsher videos, I should have pointed out in my episode that all of the videos that I was playing, they were from 2023 and 2024. I didn't have any from 2025, so who knows what the last year of his life it might have sounded like if I had different clips from this current year. I should also throw in, I have not heard anybody ever say that he might be on the autism spectrum. I for sure think he's a fundamentalist and a black and white thinker. That makes sense to me. I had not ever heard anybody suggest that he might be autistic. His shooter might also be on the autism spectrum. I heard from an acquaintance on Facebook who was diagnosed as autistic later as an adult in his 40s. And he was saying that many mass shooters and assassins are actually on the autism spectrum, which it never occurred to me, but it kind of makes sense. And he was talking about how difficult it is for people with autism to deal with cognitive dissonance. They're not sure what to do when two things don't make sense. And so they have to resolve it somehow. Super interesting. I don't know what to say about it other than super interesting. Listener Cheryl, also known as Listener My Mom. She wrote in and said,
"Thanks, Tim. I've never heard of Charlie Kirk before his death. I've been bouncing around like a ping pong ball trying to figure out who he was and what he said. You have done a great service to all of us by your very thoughtful podcast."
Thanks, Mom. I don't have another place in the episode to put this, so I'm just going to put it here. I have reworked my opening theme song. You may not notice, I do. But also, I created a new theme song. And I like my current theme song. I'm not itching to get away with it. But I also created this new one. I'm going to play a bit of it here. You tell me, write in and tell me which theme song you prefer. The original one that's at the beginning of this episode, or this new one right here.
It's the wrong podcast, but we'll make it right. Spinning the world in a whole new light. Witty, wild, and a little askew. And the one who's right. It might be you. It might be you. It might be
Issue number 3, Magic Moments. I have a very special guest this week with me. It is Danny Ray. Danny, welcome to the Wrong Podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me on the Wrong Podcast. It's good to be here.
Well, you made it. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so that's kind of an odd question because I have these two different worlds I live in. I am a magician by trade, but also a pastor. So I end up in a lot of interesting venues from like the Magic Castle and magic clubs, comedy clubs, and then also at a lot of different Christian conferences, camps, stuff like that, bringing magic with a message.
Cool. Well, there is a weird thing going on that I just need to acknowledge because my family will go nuts.
Yes.
My dad is a pastor and a magician. He was a magician. He learned it for children's ministry. And,
Oh, wow.
And his name is Danny Ray. So it's all very confusing for me right now. I'm talking to Danny Ray about pastoring and magic.
That is a rare thing to meet another Danny Ray, or at least your father. Yeah, and then to have magic and pastoring. I mean, what a interesting combination. So you know it.
Yeah. So I know all of your object lessons. I know all of your analogies. I know exactly which scriptures you're going to jump to. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I try to keep it unique and, do stuff that nobody else in the world's doing. I've been on the road for the last 25 years. So that's one of the things is like, what's something different that nobody's doing? So like the piece I did for a show called Fool Us with Penn and Teller, I essentially played Russian roulette with my eyeball, which is, very different than what other people are doing out there, and for when I'm doing it with a message, it's about the choices we make. And in my case, making a choice with my eyeball. I mean, trying to gouge it out or not. Yeah.
So yes, you were on Penn and Teller's Fool Us, and I will link to that. Everybody should go to see Danny perform for Penn and Teller. They had a show on TV where magicians would try to fool them. They're world renowned magicians, and Danny actually fooled them. And what surprised me when I watched this video, Danny, is, like I said, my dad's a
Yeah.
magician. I'm a little bit more informed than the average magic viewer.
Yeah.
And so my wife and kids are always asking me, how did they do that? How did they do that? And I saw your video for Penn and Teller, and I was like, how did they get fooled? This seems so obvious to me how he did it. And my guess was exactly the same as their guess. So you fooled me too.
Yeah, so for that particular piece, it was a very simple method before I went on that show. But then to attempt to fool them, I created 9 layers of deception in that piece, from from psychology to sleight of hand. Like there it looks like I'm doing nothing in there, but there's actually some very difficult sleight of hand going on. And then there's just other things that I put in there to create layers of deception. Yeah.
Well, it's a very unique and very impressive trick. And you say there's 9 levels of deception, and maybe I saw 2. So well
Yeah.
done. Please
Thank
go
you.
to the show notes to see what Danny does. It's a unique trick. You have not seen anybody else do this trick. He custom built it. And just in general, Danny, I was really impressed with your show. I saw you at a show. I've seen good magicians and bad magicians, and you are a good magician as far as I can tell. As an amateur viewer, does anybody get paid to view magic? I hope not.
I have no idea. I'm sure those jobs, someone probably created a job like that where it exists, but I've never heard of it.
Maybe I should start.
There you go.
So, Danny, I asked you. I had some time with you, and I asked you a question, and I was blown away by your answer. And the minute I heard your answer, I'm like, well, I've got to have this guy on the podcast to talk about this. So let me just back up and let everybody in on the conversation we were having. In my Facebook feed and Instagram, whatever, I see all these videos of their shorts, and people are showing magic tricks. They're showing how magic tricks are done. And overwhelmingly, they're very cynical. They're, somebody does a trick and then somebody exposes how it's done. And they've got this look on their face like, oh, how stupid. How could you fall for this? It's so obvious. And I wanted to know from somebody who's a professional how you feel about those videos. What's your reaction to those kind of videos? Are they cool, fair game, or are they awful? What do you think?
Yeah, so, there's a long history of this going way back before internet days of people giving away secrets. The biggest thing in terms of television that happened was with The Masked Magician. And then with the dawn of social media, exposure's been there from the very beginning. And so what do we do with that? Like, as a professional, like, there's part of it, it's like you don't want anybody to see that, but it's out there, and I don't know anybody who hasn't had some sort of exposure to, like, how a trick is done, right? And some people want to stay in the dark, other people want to, find out the secret. There's so much to this, but I feel like we think that if we know the secret, so let's just say I make a dollar bill disappear and I'm going to expose something that virtually anybody who's bought a magic kit at 5 years old, 6 years old would be aware of a thumb tip, right? A thumb tip is just a secret device that magicians use to make things disappear. So hypothetically, I make a dollar disappear, and now I expose that it's with the thumb tip, and you're like, oh, that's dumb, blah, blah, right? But it's not so much how something's done, it's the levels that go into it to really create this moment of astonishment, because the astonishment that people feel, that part is real, whether it's done with a thumb tip or any number of methods. And some of those methods are more deceptive than others. But the same people that have things exposed don't realize I could still fool them with the same thing they think they know. That's exactly how you fool magicians is you take something they know and you do it in a slightly different way and they're like, "Oh, wait a minute." And even with a thumb tip instead of like the professional way of doing that isn't using your thumb to load it. It's using your middle finger so people who are in the know, they go, "Wait, his thumb never even went in there." And so now and it's a much more deceptive way to do some of the vanishes with the thumb tip. So not again, my thing is not to expose; it's more on the education side, and those are the parallel worlds you live in. Is are you going to expose something, or how do we educate a generation that's genuinely interested in the art of sleight of hand and
Mhm.
train up that next generation? Because I want to be a part of that, but I don't want to be a part of exposing things. And I think there's a distinction and we could talk more, but I've said a lot. I'll let you process and maybe, yeah, give me some thoughts
Yeah,
after.
and when we talked earlier, you used the word wonder. You said I'm creating wonder for people, and that is a very difficult emotion to evoke in people these days.
Yeah.
And why do you think that is? This is a bigger cultural issue. Why is wonder so hard for us to tap into?
Yeah. So, and that is what I'm going after is astonishment, wonder, getting people into a place where they could experience that. That's, that's the art that I'm interested in, not, how's this done? That's to me like a much more trivial question. Uh, and and I'll use any tool, any method to get there. But I think the problem in our society is we feel like we have this right to know how everything works.
Mm,
So, whether it's, what's happening with special effects in a movie that can create these really magical worlds, but then, well, how's this done? What camera do they use? And it's,
uh-huh.
we dissect it all so that, and sometimes for good reason, but sometimes it takes away from the wonder. I think for certain people, it actually creates more wonder, knowing how something works. And then they're developing a new nuance with that which you see with Pixar, right? Pixar from the very beginning said in every film they want to create something new. So take Monsters Inc., the fur that is just a normal thing in movies now and animation. But that was the first time the level of detail they had in fur on Sully to kind of bounce up and down hundreds of thousands of pieces of fur reacting instead of just, kind of one body, with minimal movement. It was a
Yeah.
very new um, idea. And so other companies could use something like that to create that magic and that wonder for people to experience it in a movie. But yeah, I think we dissect things to the point where we go, oh, we understand now we don't need to experience that wonder astonishment. I think that's a danger for our world. I think we need to experience wonder and I think it's as a child, it's almost infinite. And then as we grow up, more and more things are explained. And now at a younger and younger age, where we feel like we know everything. And I think that's a dangerous place to be.
Yeah, part of it is the cynicism of postmodernism that
Yeah.
which is a worldview that we've all been kind of enwrapped in over the last 20, 30 years, where we're cynical, we're in the know, we're so cool because we know, and it makes us feel a little bit powerful to be in the know, but it also robs us of some things, as you point out, particularly at a magic show. You're supposed to be entertained by this. You're supposed, like you said, the point is to have this amazement, to have this wonder.
Right.
And so you're cheating yourself to do that. And the other thing, and it goes hand in hand with postmodernism, is our cell phones. We've all got these amazing devices that have
Yeah.
all the information in the world to us, and we have
Right.
a. It's great. Like I'm having a debate about some movie, who is the actor in that movie, or when does the sun rise in Alaska. We can get that information right away, and that's great. But maybe sometimes we need to consciously say, no, I'm not going to figure out how Danny did this, or whatever. I'm not going to figure out what editing tools the movie producers are using. I'm just going to accept it and enjoy it because that's what I'm paying for.
Yeah, when you think, and I'll just take my show, right? When you think about, I'll just say a card trick, right? And hypothetically, right after I do the card trick, I say, well, here's how it's done, right? Even if I did that, it doesn't explain like how did I create this moment with people where they're like, what? No, all
Uh-huh.
that type of stuff. It takes a lot of time to figure out how do you draw emotions and connection with people so that they're feeling something as if for the first time when they've experienced a ton of exposure to every art in a sense,
Yeah.
and that's to me like the presentation and the connection and the how do you how do you create that? And it's not by saying, well, he did this move with a deck of cards, or he had a thumb tip, or he like that is 1%. It's kind of like I told my son, he was talking about this idea, and I was like, well, I love that you have this idea. That's 1% of making it come to life is the idea. Now you have 99% of the work to
Uh-huh.
create the idea. And you know that from creating your podcast, right? Like having the idea is one thing, but to actually do the work to create a podcast, it takes hours and hours of thinking and developing and planning and creating. And that's what I think people miss when they go, well, how's it done? That's 1% of this much larger picture.
Hmm. Good, good. When I saw your show, you did a trick, and this woman, she goes, wait, what? How did you do that? Can you do it again? Please do it again. And you had a great answer. You just said, well, it's a trick. It's an illusion, and part of it is the surprise. If I did it again, you wouldn't be surprised by it. And it was a cute moment, and your answer kind of changed my mind about how I view magic, and how what I'm going to say now when people are like, "No, how is it done? Please tell me." That's the answer. It's a trick. That's it. Yeah. I don't know how often that happens in your shows where you have to
Not
remind people
often,
what you're
but
doing.
there's variables that happen on a regular basis. That's not one of them. But regardless, the surprise element is what I think people are after when they go to a magic show. Is they want to experience that surprise, and I want to create those moments for them. But doing it twice, it just doesn't work. If you do it twice, I guess you have to do it in a very different way. So it appears that they're seeing the same thing, but they're really seeing something different. So it surprises them again. So
Right.
yeah, I could give examples of that, but yeah.
Yeah, you have to do a different trick. I think I saw Penn and Teller do this after The Masked Magician came out.
Yeah.
The Masked Magician was a TV show about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And he showed how to do all these tricks. And so Penn and Teller incorporated that into one of their shows where they showed how they did a trick, and then they redid it. And when they redid the trick, another trick happened, something that you weren't expecting happened. And it was
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was
yeah.
pretty clever. Yeah, so you redo the trick, but you do something totally different with it or something
Right.
like that. Yeah.
And
So
then it brings back in that element of surprise.
yes, the surprise element. Yeah. Um, who are the magicians that you like as a professional magician? You are into. You're like, I got to see these people, or these are people doing shows that maybe we would see on TV, or if we're going to Vegas or something like that. Who are the magicians you seek out?
Yeah, so most nobody would ever know. My two favorite magicians are Helder Gumaris. In fact, I think in 2026 he might be doing a show in Los Angeles. He just, he'll have shows pop up every couple years. They'll last for a month, and I always try to see his show. He's a storyteller, and he's using the deck of cards as his tool, but
Mm-hmm.
the way he's able to take you on a journey and his sleight of hands impeccable. I'll give you an idea of one of the tricks that he did. It was for a private show of 15 people. I was one of those 15 people, and I've I've never seen something like this. He sat down in a chair facing a mirror, but he's talking to me, into two other people. He said, I want you to think of a card, and he's holding a card. Um, and I'm going to, show it to you in the mirror. What card are you thinking of? And I said, three of clubs. And he shows it. And now I see the three of clubs in the mirror, and he has somebody else think of a card. They say seven of diamonds. He shows him the card, and he's not reaching into the cards at all. He's just holding another card. And then he does the third one, right? And then he spins the chair around, and all of them are blank.
Huh.
I lost my mind. I have no idea how he could show a card in the mirror and instantly turn around and they're blank. And he talked about it being in the imagination. Completely fooled me. I have no idea. But these are like the moments that he creates in his shows that are really unique. Another guy is Derek Delgadio. He had a show in New York. I saw it when it was in Los Angeles at the Geffen Theater, and then he took it to an off-Broadway show, and it was called In and of Itself. I think it's available on Hulu.
Yes,
It
I
just
have
doesn't do it
it's like
justice.
the roulette, the
Yep.
gun with the one bullet in the chamber kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
yes, it is on Hulu. Yeah.
it's so good, yet watching it on Hulu and watching it live. But I feel like this is with any live art. You watch a comedian on Netflix or whatever, and you sit there and you kind of nod your head. But if you were in that room, you would feel the energy and you'd be laughing. And I know that, but on the couch watching it on your own, it's a different experience, right? And so live art, even I probably shouldn't say this, but Taylor Swift's album came out last night. We being a Taylor Swift fan, but I feel like that's but you have a controversial podcast, so I feel like
Taylor
I'm
Swift is
in
not
good hands.
controversial. You're not
I
even
feel
getting
like there,
close.
that's true, but I feel like especially like in the football world, it's divided. But whatever. So. But when I saw her movie on the Eras tour in the theater, and
Uh-huh.
I saw the it live, everybody just sat there. I'm like, if they were there live, there was nobody sitting, and you have this energy, and there's this live performance where you're connected to the performer, and I think there's this disconnect. So watching it on Hulu might not do it that particular performer justice, Derek Dragadio, but love it. Then there's a bunch of dead guys that I love, and I only have them in my head because I've only read their stuff. And
Huh.
so like Dia Vernon, Larry Jennings, all these, um, and I'm sure you can find their stuff on YouTube. I don't want to see it. I want it to just live in my head of whatever I
Huh.
think how they performed. And I think I told you this as well, but I don't watch other magicians that much. I really try to stay out. People ask me this question all the time. Have you seen? And it doesn't matter what words come out of their mouth next. It's going to be no, because they're going to say, "Have you seen this video?" It's about, I just don't. I don't want to be influenced by what
Uh-huh.
other magicians are doing. I just want to stay in my own kind of creative process and create things the best I can.
That's interesting. One of my pastors actually told me about In and of Itself, and he said that he and his wife were in tears at the end of it.
I bet.
Um,
Yeah, it
and
is powerful.
that is an unusual response to a magic show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, seek that one out, and I'll put links to both of these guys in the show notes as well. The other thing that you had mentioned was that sometimes people are they're I guess the word is stealing when they expose another magic trick, and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so exposure versus education is it's one thing to take something that's known in magic literature for like the last 50 years, 30 years, something. It's
Mhm.
another thing when somebody's putting out a special on TV and people are on Reddit or, any number of like social things. And as live, this happens, this is a thing, live while that person's performing and they're working with the best in the field to create something nobody else has done. People
Uh-huh.
are exposing it, saying, he's either doing this or this. Whether they're right or wrong, it's not their place to give away that person's secrets. Uh, I think it's different. Like what I mentioned, Di Vernon and Larry Jennings. If I went online and said, hey, here's a piece. He died, I believe, in '93, right? And to say here's a piece he designed, I think it's a really interesting piece. There's a lot of variations, but here's the original of it. I feel like in that moment you're trying to train other people up and you're trying to educate. Where if somebody's doing something live or recent and you're trying to tell how their tricks specifically that affects careers of people like Justin Willman, is doing a lot of stuff. And if you go online, there's a lot of people going, here's how Justin Willman, that affects his career. He's out there hustling to get this stuff off the ground. And I just don't think it's fair to performers that are putting in the work. And I know the amount of work it takes to create something that looks so easy, but to make it look easy, it took a lot of work
Mhm.
to get it there, and a lot of how do I figure out a new way to do something that nobody's doing? And then when you see it, you go like, oh, that's easy. You just do this. That is true, but the process to get there is very difficult at times to create something new.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great point. And yeah, you don't want to cheapen somebody else's hard work. I think
And
that's the
I
bottom line.
realize it's done all the time, but to me, it's an ethics issue, and that it reveals character, right? As if it's one thing to, uh, yeah, to expose something that's in a sense known, but then taking things that people are currently doing, I just feel like it's a violation of trust of that community.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is an audio podcast, and I know my listeners are like, "What are you doing with a magician on an audio podcast?" But Danny and I have worked out. He's actually going to do a trick for us right now, and the way it's going to work is he's going to do the trick. I'm going to watch him, and I will tell you what he's doing. So go ahead, Danny. I see your table there. Okay, Danny's
Yeah.
walking. He's walking back to the table.
Yep.
Okay, he's cutting himself in half. Okay, wow, I've never seen anybody cut themselves in half. Oh, he's reaching inside and he's pulling a rabbit out of his spleen. Yeah, it's a rabbit. He's pulled a rabbit out of his spleen. The rabbit has the 4 of clubs painted on its side. Okay, listener Matt, I know you're listening in your car right now. Could you show us the card that you pre-selected before the podcast began? Matt has the 4 of clubs. Amazing, Danny.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're supposed to say ta-da. Yeah, there you go. Ta-da. Danny, this is just a professional tip. You always need to say ta-da
I know.
at
I
the
know.
end
I
of
need to
all your
work on my
tricks,
to-dos.
because that way people know it's that they saw something amazing. If you don't say ta-da, they
That
don't
was
know it was
amazing.
amazing. Yeah. Well, thank you. That was amazing. I hope the rabbit's okay. Thank you for putting up with my antics. Danny, where can people find you? What, like, you're for hire? How do they hire you? What kind of shows do you do? And do you have anything else you want people to know about?
Yes. So social media, Danny or just Danny Ray Magic. The website, DannyRayMagic.com. You can, yeah, if you have a volunteer appreciation night, if you have some sort of speaking event, whether it's corporate or for ministry, I would love to be a part of that. And I try to take anything that, whatever the values are, the mission is of that particular event, and tailor that to make it custom for your event, and so people don't see it as an appendage, but it's a part of what you're already doing, and
Mm-hmm.
a way of just bringing people joy and laughter and fun.
Yeah, great. And you have a podcast as well, right?
Yeah, it's called We Do Whatever It Takes. It's a marriage podcast. My wife and I have been married for 29 years. And so we just try to encourage people, regardless of whether their marriage is struggling, and whether it's great, is how do we make it a little bit better every day. And my wife is a therapist. And so we kind of approach it from, I'm a magician, she's a therapist. How's this work? And this is, some ideas, practical tips, strategies to help your marriage.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Danny, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tim.
But I could be wrong. If you think I am, let me know. Let me know why. I had fun and I hope you did too. Bye-bye.
It might be you. It's the wrong podcast.